All right, for today's video, I'm going to be doing a top 10 list. This is the 10 best cards in Star Wars Unlimited Spark of Rebellion set. It's based on the context of this one set, what I know about the game. I think there's, a lot of other cards that could sneak in there, but it's what I got right now. I'd love to hear about what you think some of the cards I missed might be. You can leave a comment in the video, and I'll definitely check that out. First things first, though, I got a few honorable mentions. We got Battlefield Marine here, which I think is the premier heroic 2-drop in the game right now. I chose to put him here instead of the Green Squadron A-Wing. Power of the Dark Side's a very strong card, kind of a centerpiece of the villain control decks. I think Millennium Falcon obviously is kind of a really push-statted vehicle in the game. Doesn't have a home in one of the best decks right now, but definitely room to grow there. K2 is a fantastic beater in the mid-range and aggro decks right now. Cunning is maybe the best double aspect card we have access to. And U-Wing Reinforcement, definitely a big shout out to this one. I think of all the cards here, this has tremendous room to grow as more cards come out, as kind of giving you a toolbox access to your deck. I think right now there aren't a ton of enter the battlefield effects for it. There aren't that many shenanigans you can do with it, although there's some decks out there that do capitalize on this pretty well. So it kind of makes this the second 10, the honorable mention list here. All right, next up we're going to get into the top 10. There's a little TLDR section at the end if you want to just take a look at the list, but I'm going to talk a little bit about each card here. And number 10 might be one of the bigger surprises for this list. It's just a little common from the set, but I think this is such a huge cornerstone of basically all the hero decks right now. They all basically run a Rebel package because most of the good early units in the game are Rebels. This guy's barely understated for 3 cost. It action cheats, it buffs the ability to just deal damage straight to base with this card and kind of maintain priority. It enables trade ups. For instance, a restored arc can defeat your opponent's A-Wing with this. You can have the ability to destroy leaders with this. With an ambush, for instance, with Energy Conversion Lab, you can deal with just another 2-drop in play, like a Battlefield Marine. You can deal 8 to something between this and the Marine. I think this is one of the scariest turn 2 plays you can come across in aggro decks. They'll be able to push damage and keep priority. I think there's a chance, this gets a little worse as more cards come out and more hero decks move away from Rebel focus. But right now, this guy's a real champ. All right, next, number 9, Boba Fett. Legendary card. Stats clearly pushed. It's a 3/5. There's nothing else at that stat line other than Emperor's Royal Guard in specifically a Palpatine deck. He's got a really strong on-attack ability too. I think there's not really that much to say. It's just kind of overstated and overbuffed. It just brawls really well with anything else that comes down on that turn. Since leaders also don't they're always considered in play, the ability for this guy to always deal that extra 3 damage with his on attack trigger is also really powerful. Man, this card one-shots Han Solo, the leader, and doesn't even die. There's a lot going on for him. All right, next, number 8, Luke Skywalker, another legendary. One of the strongest 7-cost units in the game. Comes in, deletes something often, stabilizes with his restore. This is kind of the end game for the non-aggro hero decks. He does the job, does it really well. I think this could get even better as more cards come out and heroes solidify themselves as better in the mid-range game, where right now I think the hero decks falter at mid-range against Boba Fett, so they tend to trend more aggro based. But if there's ever mid-range or ramp hero decks that come into tier 1, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a major reason why. All right, number 7, Force Throw. If you've seen any of my other videos, I think you probably saw this one coming. You know, the power ceiling on this is through the roof, right? You like discard a card. If it's an expensive card, you can blow up a expensive unit. But the floor is also, in my opinion, pretty high. I mean, the card costs 1. The removal in this game, I think, is mostly overcosted compared to the units, right? You got Open Fire at 3, which deals 4. You've got Takedown at 4, which pseudo deals 5. Force Throw is kind of the one removal card, and Force Choke, that I think can help you catch up in games, because you can play this and deploy units at the same time. You because it's so cheap, you can get like a pretty substantial lead in a game by playing multiple cards. Obviously, there's the downside here. It is situational. You have to have force units in play. Right now, that's not always easy to trigger, especially in villain decks. I think hero decks have a bit of an easier time enabling this, but it's really worth jumping through the hoops. This is another card that I think can grow in value, actually. As more cards come out, we get more force users that are easier to keep in play, more force synergy. This is going to be a big player, I think, for a long time. All right, number 6, For a Cause I Believe in. This is the best base direct damage card we have, and it does a huge amount of damage. It's a 3 cost that deals 4 usually. If your deck is built in a way to maximize this, it's generally 4. That's a ton. Simply put, this is kind of why these hero aggro decks are able to close out games. Without this, they'd be much more manageable. But between this and then the K2SO, which was in the honorable mentions, they have great access to beating decks that have already stabilized, right? They don't need to rely on units to finish off the game. They can deal 18 damage, 19 damage, and then play this, ping with their Sabine leader. This also will help them dig into the next one. So, even if your opponent only took 17, you play this, you deal 4, you might find another one. You might have another one in your hand, you just deal 8 from your hand. This is hugely powerful. Potentially, if we get better aggro tools that aren't in like the heroism alignment, this might lose some value. But right now, it's pretty easy to just be like, I'll play the best heroic cards. It'll be the best aggro deck, and I'll play this because it will almost always deal 4 damage. Next, number 5, we got Darth Vader, the most expensive card in Star Wars Unlimited right now. He's very powerful. There's not much to say here. Comes down, kills something, brings another buddy with him. He's kind of premier in basically all villain decks, right? You're gonna play him in Boba Fett mid-range decks as your curve topper. You're gonna play him in your blue villain control decks as your like gap fill, right? Like it's what bridges you to your end game. You're gonna play him in your Ramp Vader decks. Tons of value with this. Even if he gets defeated, he brings a buddy, so you're not like losing out on value there. There's some really good interplay abilities, especially in like the villain blue, the Death Trooper that deals 2 is such a huge pull out of this. But he also can bring it Boba Fett unit, which we talked about. 7 Fleet Defender in the Boba decks. Can bring Stormtrooper Lieutenants, which then allow you to attack with another unit you had in play. This is another card that will probably get better with time as more 3 cost or lower Imperial units get introduced into the game that have relevant abilities. Very strong key piece to Green Villain. Number 4, we got another Green Villain card, Overwhelming Barrage. Has been talked about a lot from kind of the onset of this game, because I think this card was teased very early in the spoilers. It's kind of a one-sided board wipe, basically, that also like leaves behind a buffed unit that can then like hit base or trade or like attack into something big. Very powerful, kind of the stabilizing force for like the villain control decks. The villain mid-range decks play it. I think just basically any villain green deck is going to play this maybe forever. We'll see. But yeah, it's just amazing. It's so good. All right, number 3, Fett's Fire Spray. I think anyone that's played against Boba Fett knows what this does to them. Coming in ready is such a powerful ability in this game. I think only one other unit really does it, the Millennium Falcon. Ambush kind of does it, right? It's like you're readying, but you have to attack a unit. But the ability for a space unit to be statted like this, which is huge, it's 5/6 in space, is massive. And then immediately deal 5 to your opponent when you're playing Boba Fett, right? This rating here is assuming you're playing it in Boba Fett. It's incredibly powerful. It's very hard to answer and stay on pace, because generally you can't hold back energy resources right when they're playing it, because Boba Fett specifically ends up putting a lot of pressure on you while you're playing the game. So you have to answer the threats that are already in front of you, and they play this. And the cheapest way to answer this directly is with a card Vanquish, which costs 5. And typically in a game, it's hard to hold up 5 resources when you have to answer a bunch of other things. So what happens is you take 5 from this. Even if you have the Vanquish, next turn maybe you fire it off, but now you've spent almost your entire turn answering your opponent's previous turn play. They can do whatever they want. It already hit you for 5. You know, this one's a beater. I think the fact that it only works with one leader is maybe a little unfortunate, because I think this card alone makes Thrawn, the other villain cunning leader, feel a little weak in comparison to Boba Fett, because he doesn't get such an obscenely powerful card. Oh, and it also has an ability, which, you know, I forget about sometimes because all the other stuff it does, but it can exhaust things, not completely irrelevant when there's racing involved. Yeah, this one's tough to deal with. And number 2, we got Super Laser Technician, the best ramp card in the game, and also the 3rd villain green card in the top, was it 5? Top 6? You know, resupply is very good, but when your resupply also does 2 damage, I think you get something truly amazing. And this one, it's not to be understated how important that 2 damage is, and how important it is that this is a unit that can come in and trade with something or weaken something. It also puts the resource into play ready, which in the sense, if you're ambushing it with Energy Conversion Lab and you have another play, is important. Now, you don't always have to ambush with this, right? Because the next turn, when it trades into something, it's coming in ready. It doesn't delay the resource. And you got a unit out of it. It's an Imperial tag, which, you know, if you can play it with Stormtrooper Lieutenant, man, this coming in and defeating something that has 4 health feels nuts. Ramp in this game specifically is incredibly powerful because of the leader dynamic. If you can get to your leader earlier and get a free big play, you can really snowball games, right? You're not paying resources for your leader, so that leader turn really catches you up for those resources you had to spend on your ramp. So even with the case of resupply, you paid 3 for it to do nothing theoretically. Well, you got to your leader quickly, your leader was free, you played him, you caught up all those resource loss. And in the case of Super Laser Tech, you also got some damage out of it. This is, again, I keep saying cornerstone because there's so many cornerstone cards in Green Villain right now, but it's another one. And this piece is really the glue that I think holds Villain Green together and is the best piece of that entire puzzle. And last, number 1, I don't think anyone's surprised about this one. Energy Conversion Lab, the best base and the best card in Star Wars Unlimited right now. Giving any unit you want that costs 6 or less ambush is busted. You know, I'm not saying this card is OP necessarily. It's just, but right now it is the defining characteristic of most decks, even the hero aggro decks. Sabine will play green because Energy Conversion Lab is so good with their overwhelm units like K2 and Steadfast Battalion. It's the best card against aggro, right? Because they can play units and you can kill them before they actually got to attack into you. Think about it this way. This card, when you ambush even something simple like a Consortium Star Viper into an A-Wing, you have prevented 3 damage from the A-Wing. You have killed one of their units. You've potentially healed from your Consortium Star Viper, and you've action cheat. You did like an action cheat here. You're probably more likely to even maintain initiative going to the next turn because you deployed and attacked at the same time. And that's just one of the simplest things, but there's so much that you can ambush in this game that leaves behind a powerful unit and helps you maintain initiative going to the next turn, that this 5 cost, like this 5 life, man, personally I think it's irrelevant. I think if you ever play the base version of the green base, like the 30 health, you are doing yourself a disservice. I think this is strictly better. I know that term will maybe get some people riled up. I hope not too much, though. I think that right now you're playing green, you're playing this base, and often you're playing green because of this base. So, yeah, really pushed card. All right, here's that TLDR I promised you. We got 1 through 5 on the top there, 6 through 10 on the bottom. If you have any other opinions, if you disagree intensely with any of mine, please let me know. I love to hear about it. I would also really appreciate if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. It'll keep me really happy, which is very important to me. And stay tuned. There'll be some more videos coming in the near future. Hope you enjoyed this. Take care.